You are walking along the river path in the late afternoon, the earth beneath your feet packed smooth by seasons of footsteps. And ahead of you, the Granary complex comes into view. The air is still warm, though the heat of the day has begun to soften, and the light falls golden across the fields that stretch between the path and the cluster of pale ochre buildings waiting just beyond. This is sleep through history, and there is nothing you need to remember here, nothing to keep track of. You can let the words wash over you, following where they lead or drifting where you need to go. The granaries stand together in a broad courtyard, each one a tall structure built from mud brick, their walls thick and smooth with plaster that catches the slanting light. The inundation has passed now, and the Nile has drawn itself back from the fields, leaving the land damp and dark at its edges, ready for the seed that will soon be scattered there. The river is dropping slowly back to itself. You step closer, and the granaries rise before you, their height more pronounced now that you are near. Each wall is curved slightly, shaped by the hands that built it, and the plaster surface is smooth to the eye, almost seamless, painted by sun and shadow. Near the top of each structure, small square openings have been cut into the thick walls, and through them comes a thread of warm air that carries the smell of stored grain, dry and deep and faintly sweet. The walls themselves hold the warmth of the day, giving it back slowly now as the afternoon begins its long turn toward evening. The shadows cast by the granaries stretch across the courtyard, long and precise, pointing eastward like slow hands laid across the packed earth. The ground beneath them has been swept clean, and you can see the marks left by the broom, faint lines in the dust that curve and overlap where someone moved carefully this morning, or perhaps the morning before. You at the entrance to the courtyard, a wide doorway framed by two thick pilasters that rise from the ground and taper slightly as they climb. There is no gate here, no barrier, only the shift in light and air as you move from the open path into the shade of the compound. The temperature changes just a degree or two cooler, and the sounds that filled the fields behind you begin to soften. The distant call of a bird, the faint lap of water against the riverbank, all of it grows quieter, held at a gentle distance by the thick walls and the stillness of the courtyard itself. On the shaded side of the courtyard, a linen awning has been stretched between two wooden posts, and beneath it you see the clerks already at work. There are 2 or 3 of them, seated cross-legged on reed mats, their postures upright but relaxed, their attention turned downward to the papyrus sheets spread before them. Each sheet is weighted at the corners with small smooth stones, pale and round, chosen for their size and their steadiness. One of the clerks lifts a reed pen, dips it without looking into the small clay dish beside him, and draws it slowly across the page. The sound is quiet and precise, a soft scratch that moves through the air and fades. Beside the nearest clerk, resting on the mat within easy reach, there is a tally stick. It is a short length of wood, pale and worn smooth from years of handling, its surface marked with small notches that catch the light and cast tiny shadows of their own. The stick lies still, waiting, a tool that has been lifted and set down countless times, always returned to the same place. You find yourself settling near the clerks, not among them, but close enough to share the shade cast by the awning. The linen above you moves just barely in the faint breath of air that comes from the direction of the river, a slow ripple that passes from one edge to the other and then is still again. There is nothing to do here, nothing asked of you. You have arrived and you are still, and that is enough. The light continues its slow change, the gold of afternoon deepening by degrees into something warmer, something closer to amber. The shadows lengthen further, their edges soft against the packed earth, and the air grows a fraction cooler, carrying with it the smell of dry clay dust, sun-warmed linen, and the deep, warm scent of the grain stored inside the thick walls around you. From beyond the courtyard, faint and steady, you can sense the presence of the river, its surface calm and dark, its level dropping slowly as the season turns. The river is dropping slowly back to itself. One of the clerks shifts slightly on the mat, reaching for the tally stick, lifting it with care, turning it in his hands to find the next unmarked place. He does not hurry. There is no rush to any of this. The pen moves again. The stones hold the papyrus flat, and the afternoon continues its gentle descent toward evening. You rest here, in the shade, in the quiet, and let the granary hold you as it holds the grain. You let yourself settle more deeply into the shade of the courtyard now, and as you do, you begin to notice the space above you with greater clarity. The awning stretched overhead is made of linen undyed, the color of pale cream, almost the color of the clay itself, but softer, warmer. The weave is loose, not tight, and because of this, the light that comes through is dappled, gentle, never sharp. It falls across your shoulders and hands in shifting patterns that move so slowly you cannot quite catch the movement, only the sense that the light is breathing, that it is alive in some quiet, patient way. Where the awning ends, the sunlight falls in a clean band across the courtyard floor. The line between shade and light is clear, and you watch it without urgency, noticing how it moves almost imperceptibly toward the west. The afternoon is unwinding itself, thread by thread, and there is nothing you need to do but let it continue. The air here carries a smell you had not quite separated from the warmth before, but now it becomes distinct. It is the smell of stored grain, dry and settled, almost sweet in a way that has nothing to do with honey or fruit, but with age, with patience, with something gathered and held. The smell comes from the granary openings above, drifting down into the courtyard on no particular breeze. It is simply present, the way warmth is present, the way the light is present. Beneath it, there is the smell of dry earth, baked and quiet, and beneath that, so faint you might only imagine it, the trace of the river. The river is dropping slowly back to itself. You become aware again of the clerks nearby, not as people exactly, but as a rhythm, a presence woven into the afternoon. One of them is writing, and you hear the scratch of the reed pen against papyrus, a soft, persistent sound like something being drawn gently across cloth. There is then a soft tap, barely audible, as the pen is loaded again with ink from a small palette of compressed pigment kept close at hand. Another scratch. Another. The rhythm is not hurried. It is not dramatic. It is the sound of a day being completed, of tallies being set down, of grain being accounted for. Nothing more than that. In your own hand, or resting nearby where you can see it, there is a tally stick. You let your attention settle on it, the way the light settles on the courtyard floor. The wood is pale acacia, worn smooth from years of use, from being held by many hands in many afternoons like this one. The surface has a silkiness to it now, no longer raw, no longer new. Along its length are notches, shallow and regular, cut with care, but not with decoration. They are marks of purpose, nothing more. You run your thumb along the notches, if only in your mind, and feel the lightest possible sensation, a small rhythm of ridges, barely there. It is an object that means nothing beyond its simple task. And in that simplicity, there is a kind of rest. The awning above you moves, not a wind exactly, but a slow breath from the direction of the river, barely enough to stir the linen, but enough to notice. The movement comes, and then it goes. When it comes, it carries with it a trace of coolness, faint but real, a promise that the heat of the day is beginning to release itself. The light under the awning shifts by almost nothing. The scratch of the pen continues. You let your breath follow the rhythm of the pen in, and the pen touches the papyrus. Out, and the pen lifts. A tap, another mark. The day is being written down, line by line, and you're part of the stillness that holds it. The smell of grain is still present. The light is still dappled and soft. The band of sunlight across the floor has moved a little farther west, though you did not see it move. Everything here is slow. Everything here is held. The river is dropping slowly back to itself. You notice the texture of the air now, how it feels against your skin. It is warm, but not as warm as it was. There is a faintness to the coolness, a suggestion rather than a statement, but it is enough. You feel the way the heat is beginning to lift, not all at once, but the way water recedes, the way light fades, degree by degree, breath by breath. The awning stirs again. The linen shifts overhead with a sound so soft it is almost no sound at all, just a whisper of fabric against air. The light changes by a fraction. The scratch of the pen continues, steady, patient, marking the afternoon in strokes you do not need to see. Your hand rests near the tally stick or holds it loosely, and you feel again the smoothness of the wood, the small ridges of the notches. It has been held by so many hands, and now it is held by yours, or simply rests beside you, part of the courtyard, part of the stillness, part of the slow unwinding of the day, the smell of dry earth and grain, the dappled light through cream-colored linen, the scratch and tap of the pen, the faint breath from the river, carrying coolness, carrying the promise of evening. Everything is slowing. Everything is settling. And you are part of it, held here in the shade, in the warmth, in the rhythm of the afternoon as it completes itself, tally by tally, breath by breath. The shadow line has crossed more of the courtyard now. You notice it without measuring, the way one becomes aware of the changing weight of light. The band of direct sunlight has narrowed, no longer stretching across the full width of the packed earth floor. It has retreated toward the western wall, a smaller golden ribbon that glows more warmly than it did earlier. The amber quality of the light is stronger now, deeper, like something thickening in the air itself. The mud brick walls on the western side of the courtyard catch the sun fully and glow a deep, warm ochre, almost the color of old honey. The texture of the dried clay becomes more visible in this slanted light, each subtle rise and hollow casting its own tiny shadow, the surface alive with detail that was flattened at midday. You rest your gaze there, where the wall holds the warmth and returns it gently to the air around you. One of the clerks to your left rolls a papyrus scroll closed with a slow, even movement and sets it aside. The sound of his pen has stopped. There is no hurry in the gesture, only the natural conclusion of something completed. He rises, brushing his hands lightly against his linen tunic, and moves toward the inner archway without sound, disappearing into the cooler shadows beyond the courtyard. The space feels quieter now. Only one pen continues its occasional scratch, unhurried, the rhythm slower than before. Then that too for longer intervals, the silence between marks stretching out like something expanding to fill the courtyard. The air settles into this quietness, the way dust settles after footsteps have passed. You shift your weight very slightly on the mat beneath you. It is woven tightly from river reeds, firm but yielding just enough to remember the shape of the body resting there. It has absorbed the heat of the day and holds it still, a steady, gentle warmth that meets the length of your back, your legs, the place where your arms rest beside you. The linen of your clothing is soft and familiar against your skin, and where the shadow of the awning falls across your forearms, there is the faintest coolness beginning to arrive. A breath of change so subtle you would not notice it unless you were very still. The tally stick, if you're still holding it, rests without weight in your loosened hand. The wood is smooth, worn by many hands before yours, and it requires nothing of you now. After the inundation, the measurement and recording of grain was one of the most important acts in the agricultural calendar along the Nile. The clerks who sat in these courtyards were trained from early in their lives in a system of notation that allowed vast quantities to be tracked with precision. But in the late afternoon, with the day's work nearly complete, the pace slowed to something almost ceremonial. Each mark became deliberate, each tally a kind of closing. There is a quietness to this final accounting, a respect for the ending of the day's labor that feels older than memory. You let your breath settle and lengthen slightly. There is nothing to count now, nothing to hold in your mind except the warmth of the mat beneath you and the amber glow on the western wall. The courtyard holds you in its stillness. Beyond the courtyard's open end, just visible between two granary walls, you can see a strip of the Nile. It is a narrow view framed by mud brick, but enough. The water is dark under a sky that is still bright but no longer sharp. The hard brilliance of afternoon softened now into something gentler. The surface of the river is smooth, almost flat, and it holds the amber of the sky in a long reflection that trembles only very slightly, as though breathing. The river's voice, if it can be called that, is a low and distant continuity. It is not loud enough to be heard a separate sound, but it is there beneath everything, like the sound of something patient and very old, simply continuing. It has no urgency. It carries no message. It is only itself, present and steady, moving in the way rivers move when they have returned to their banks and settled back into their ancient paths. The river is dropping slowly back to itself. The amber light deepens further along the western wall, the ochre warming toward rust, toward the color of earth turned in the fields beyond the granary. The band of sunlight has narrowed again, pulling itself inward, concentrating its glow into a smaller and smaller space. Soon it will climb the wall entirely, leaving the courtyard floor in shadow, but for now it lingers, brushing the base of the wall with a light so warm it seems to hum silently in the air. The last clerk sets down his pen. You do not see him leave, but when you let your gaze drift across the courtyard again, you realize you are alone. The silence is complete now, or nearly so. There is only the faint rustle of the linen awning overhead, moving barely in a breeze, so light it touches nothing else, and the distant, low murmur of the river beyond the walls. You breathe in the smell of dry clay dust, the deep, warm smell of stored grain, the sun-warmed linen. You breathe out, and the breath leaves you without effort, dissolving into the stillness of the courtyard. There is nothing you need to do. The day's work is finished. The tallies are complete. The grain is counted and stored in the cool darkness of the granaries that surround you on all sides. The mat beneath you holds you with gentle firmness. The warmth it carries is steady, patient, asking nothing. You let your weight rest more fully into it, feeling the support rise to meet you, the woven reeds flexing just slightly and then holding, reliable and soft. The strip of river beyond the courtyard darkens as the sky above it shifts from bright to something softer, a pale gold fading slowly toward rose. The reflection on the water shifts with it, the amber becoming something cooler, quieter, a mirror that holds the last of the day's light without effort. The surface remains smooth, trembling only at the edges where the current moves beneath, invisible but constant. The river is dropping slowly back to itself. The western wall no longer glows. The sunlight has climbed higher now, leaving the courtyard in a gentle shadow that is not darkness, but a soft gray rose, the color of early dusk when the air itself seems to change texture. Everything becomes softer in this light. The edges of the granary walls blur slightly. The packed earth floor loses its detail and becomes a single, unbroken surface, warm and even beneath the awning's shadow. You close your eyes, or perhaps they were already closed. It makes no difference. The warmth of the mat is still there beneath you. The faint coolness in the air touches your face, your hands. The smell of clay and grain and linen surrounds you without pressing close. The distant voice of the river continues, patient and low, a sound that has no beginning and no end, only presence. You are held here in this courtyard, in this moment that stretches and softens and asks nothing of you. The day is ending. The light is fading. The clerks have gone, and you remain, resting, breathing, sinking gently into the stillness that rises to meet you from the woven reeds, from the warm mud brick, from the river beyond the walls that continues its ancient and unhurried return. The courtyard is in full shadow now. The last of the direct light has gone from the walls, slipped away while you are resting here, and what remains is softer, diffused, the kind of light that seems to come from nowhere in particular. The air has grown noticeably cooler, and you can feel that coolness coming in steadily from the direction of the river, settling low across the packed earth, pooling gently in the spaces between the walls. The smell of grain remains. It has not changed. Dry and warm and patient, it fills the air around you just as it has all afternoon. And now, in this dimmer light, it seems more present than anything you might see, more present than the walls, more present than the awning above. It is simply here, steady and unchanged, the way certain things persist without effort. The linen awning is still there overhead, pale against the deepening sky. You have looked at it many times this afternoon, and it remains as it was, stretched taut between its wooden supports, barely moving. The surface catches what little light is left, holding it softly. You do not need to observe it closely now. It is simply there, the way familiar things are there in a room you know well. The tally stick rests where it has been resting, its surface smooth and worn from long use. You can recall the feeling of it in your hand, the way the wood has been handled so many times that it no longer catches against the skin. It lies still now. There is no counting to be done. The work of the afternoon has finished in its own time without announcement. The packed earth of the courtyard floor stretches away toward the walls, swept clean as it always is. The same floor you crossed when you arrived, the same earth that holds the warmth of the day even as the air begins to cool. It asks nothing of you. It is only there beneath you, solid and familiar, part of the shape of this place. Somewhere beyond the walls, the river continues its long settling. The sound, so distant and so constant that it is less a sound than a quality the air holds. The Nile is there as it has always been, moving in its own time, in its own measure. You have heard it all afternoon, and you hear it now, unchanged. The scratch of the reed pen has stopped. You do not remember it stopping, but it has. The papyrus has been rolled and set aside, and the afternoon's accounting is done. No one has left, or perhaps they have, but there is no movement to mark, no moment of departure. The pen has simply stilled, and the work is finished, and the silence that has taken its place is not empty. It has the same quality as the smell of grain, old and settled and full. The awning stirs once, so slightly that you almost do not notice. A breath of air moving through, barely enough to shift the fabric. Then it goes still again, and the stillness returns, deeper than before. The light is lower now, rose gray and soft, the kind of light that has no edges. It does not illuminate so much as it rests upon things, gentle and even. The walls hold it. The ground holds it. Everything has grown quieter, simpler, drawn inward toward rest. You can feel the warmth still held in the mud brick wall nearby, the stored heat of the long afternoon radiating outward in slow waves. It touches your shoulder, your side, a presence without weight. The wall has been holding this warmth all day, and now it releases it back into the cooling air, patient and steady. Your arms rest where they have been resting. There is a slight weight to them, a heaviness that is not uncomfortable, only present. They do not need to move. They do not need to hold anything. The tally stick rests on its own. The work is done. Your breath moves through you in long, even exhalations, each one settling a little deeper than the last. There is no effort in it. The breath simply continues, the way the river continues, the way the evening continues, without and without haste. The river is dropping slowly back to itself. The land is waiting in its new dark soil, patient as it has always been. The evening continues. There is no particular moment being marked, no threshold being crossed. It is only the ordinary end of an ordinary day in a place where such days have accumulated for longer than can easily be imagined. The smell of grain surrounds you, warm and dry and constant. The light is softer still, almost gray now, almost gone. The coolness from the river settles closer, and you can feel it on your skin, gentle and steady. The awning overhead is pale and still. The tally stick rests. The courtyard is quiet. The earth beneath you solid and familiar. Everything has simplified into this, into warmth and coolness, into breath and stillness, into the long, slow dimming of the light. The river is dropping slowly back to itself, and you are here, resting in this place, held by the evening, held by the silence, held by the old and settled fullness of this quiet hour. Nothing needs to be observed. Nothing needs to change. It is all simply here, as it has been, as it continues to be. The light grows softer. The air grows cooler. The day releases its hold gently, without haste. And you rest. You rest here in the warmth that the walls have been holding all day long. The mat beneath you carries your weight without question, woven tight and firm, familiar now against your shoulders, against the backs of your legs. You feel the gentle texture of it, the way the reeds press softly where your body meets the ground. The air moves so little now that you notice only the stillness. The linen awning above you hangs quiet, barely swaying, holding its own shape in the evening. The grain smell surrounds you, warm and constant, mingled with the dry earth scent that rises from the clay floor, from the walls, from everywhere the sun has touched today. Your breath moves in and out, so easy, so slow. The rise and fall of your chest continues without effort, without thought. You feel the coolness now on your forearms where they rest beside you, the faint change in the air as the heat begins to leave, as the day begins to turn itself over into something softer, something darker. The scrolls lie closed where the clerks have left them. The tally stick rests on the ground nearby, its surface worn so smooth from all the hands that have held it, all the seasons it has counted. You do not need to reach for it. You know it is there. You know its weight. You know the way it feels. And beneath everything, beneath the stillness and the warmth and the grain smell and the texture of the mat, you hear the river. It is not loud. It has never been loud. It is only there, low and continuous, unhurried, the sound of water finding its way back. The Nile dropping in the dark beyond the granary walls, settling into its banks, into its own shape, the way it has always done, the way it will continue doing through all the night ahead. The river dropping, dropping back to itself. That sound does not stop. It moves beneath your breath, beneath the stillness of the awning, beneath the warmth in the mud brick and the fading light in the courtyard. It continues, steady, without beginning, without end, just the low voice of water returning to where it belongs. Your body rests. Your breath continues. The darkness is beginning now beyond these walls, long and gentle and unhurried. The evening goes on. The granary holds its warmth. Everything remains just as it is, just as it has been, and the river moves through the dark, quiet, constant, dropping back.